Imagine your phone rings at midnight. The house is silent. The only sound is the ticking of the clock on the wall. You reach for your phone, groggy and disoriented, wondering who could be calling at such an ungodly hour. The screen lights up, casting an eerie glow in the dark room. You squint at the caller ID, but the number is unfamiliar. Hesitantly, you swipe to answer, your heart pounding in your chest. But the caller died last year. You freeze, the phone slipping slightly in your grip. Memories flood your mind, moments shared, laughter, and the sorrow of their passing. You remember the funeral, the tears, and the final goodbye. How could this be happening? You shake your head, trying to dispel the confusion, but the voice on the other end is unmistakable. It was a dark, stormy night when the first call came in. The wind howled outside and rain lashed against the windows. Lightning illuminated the sky, casting fleeting shadows in the room. You remember the exact moment because it felt like a scene from a horror movie. The phone rang and you answered, expecting a prank or a wrong number, but what you heard sent chills down your spine. I thought it was a joke. The voice on the other end was so familiar, yet it couldn't be real. You laughed nervously, trying to mask your fear. Very funny, you said, hoping it was a friend playing a trick. But the voice continued, calm and serious, as if unaware of the impossibility of the situation. But the voice, it was unmistakable. It was your friend, the one who had passed away a year ago, the same tone, the same inflections. You couldn't believe your ears. You asked questions, trying to catch the caller in a lie, but the answers were too accurate, too personal. It was as if your friend was speaking to you from beyond the grave. My friend, who passed away a year ago, was calling me from beyond the grave. The realization hit you like a ton of bricks. You felt a mix of fear, confusion, and a strange sense of comfort. Could it be possible? Could the dead communicate with the living? You had so many questions, but the voice on the other end seemed to have all the answers. Each night, the calls became more frequent. At first it was once a week, then every few days, and soon it was every night at midnight. The calls became a part of your routine, a haunting ritual that you couldn't escape. You would sit by the phone waiting for it to ring, your heart racing with anticipation and dread. His voice, filled with sorrow and regret, whispered secrets he couldn't share while alive. He spoke of things you never knew, hidden truths and buried emotions. Each call revealed a new layer of his life, a side of him that you had never seen. It was as if he was unburdening his soul, seeking redemption from beyond the grave. The static on the line grew louder, almost as if something was trying to break through. The interference was maddening, a constant reminder of the unnatural nature of the calls. Sometimes the voice would fade, replaced by eerie whispers and strange noises. You wondered if there were other forces at play, something sinister lurking in the background. One night he said, "I need you to come to the old house. Now." The urgency in his voice was palpable. You knew the house he was talking about, the old abandoned place at the edge of town. It was a place you had avoided for years, a place filled with dark memories and ghost stories. But now, you had no choice. You had to go. Shivers ran down my spine. The thought of going to that house in the dead of night was terrifying. You felt a cold sweat break out on your forehead and your hands trembled as you grabbed your keys, but you couldn't ignore the call. You had to find out what your friend wanted, why he was reaching out from beyond the grave. What could he possibly want? You asked yourself this question over and over as you drove through the dark, empty streets. The town was eerily quiet, and the only sound was the hum of your car's engine. You tried to calm your racing thoughts, but the fear and curiosity were overwhelming. What awaited you at the old house? What secrets would be revealed? With trembling hands, I drove to the abandoned house at the edge of town. The journey felt like an eternity, each minute stretching into an hour. The road was dark and winding, and the trees seemed to close in around you. You gripped the steering wheel tightly, your knuckles white with tension. Finally, you saw the house in the distance, its silhouette looming against the night sky. The door creaked open, and there, in the dim light, I saw. The interior was just as you remembered, dusty, decayed and filled with shadows. You stepped inside, your footsteps echoing in the empty space. The air was thick with the scent of mould and decay. You called out your friend's name, your voice trembling. There was no response, only the sound of the wind whistling through the broken windows. Suddenly a shadow moved in the corner of your eye. You turned quickly, but there was nothing there. The air grew colder, and you could feel a presence, something watching you. Your heart pounded in your chest as you took another step forward, the floorboards creaking under your weight. The house seemed to come alive with every sound, every whisper of the wind. To find out what happens next, hit that like button, comment your theories and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The mystery deepens, and the answers lie just beyond the veil. Will you dare to uncover the truth? Join us on this journey into the unknown, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and every shadow holds a secret. Turn on notifications if you dare. The next chapter awaits, and the story is far from over. Stay tuned for more, if you have the courage to continue. The door creaked open, and there in the dim light I saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner. It was my friend, or at least what was left of him. His eyes were hollow, and his voice echoed with a chilling whisper. "You shouldn't have come," he said, "but now that you're here, you must help me." You froze, your breath catching in your throat. The figure moved slightly, stepping into a sliver of moonlight that filtered through the cracked window. It was him, his face gaunt and ghostly pale, his eyes filled with an unearthly glow. The room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with an oppressive silence. "I need you to find something," he continued, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Something I left behind, something that holds the key to my redemption." Your mind raced, trying to make sense of his words. What could he possibly have left behind in this decrepit old house, and why did he need you to find it? "Where is it?" you asked, your voice trembling. His gaze shifted to the old dusty bookshelf that stood against the far wall. "Behind the books," he said, "you'll find a hidden compartment. Inside there's a journal. It will explain everything." You hesitated, glancing back at the figure. His expression was one of desperation and sorrow, as if the weight of the world or the afterlife rested on your shoulders. With a deep breath, you walked over to the bookshelf, your hands shaking as you began to move the dusty tomes aside. Behind the books you found a small, hidden compartment, just as he had said. Inside was an old leather-bound journal. You pulled it out, the leather cold and brittle in your hands. The figure watched you intently, his eyes never leaving the journal. "Read it," he urged. "It holds the answers you seek, and the truth about my death." With trembling hands you opened the journal, the pages yellowed with age. The first entry was dated several years ago, long before your friend's untimely demise. As you began to read, the words seemed to blur and shift, revealing a story of secrets, betrayal, and a dark pact that had led to his downfall. The more you read, the more you realized the depth of his suffering and the terrible burden he carried. The journal detailed his desperate attempts to break free from a curse that had followed him even in death. It was a tale of love, loss, and a desperate plea for redemption. As you turned the final page, a chill ran down your spine. The last entry was written on the night of his death, a cryptic message that hinted at a way to break the curse but required a sacrifice. "You must help me," he repeated, his voice filled with a haunting urgency. "You are the only one who can set me free." You looked up from the journal, your heart heavy with the weight of his words. The figure began to fade, his form dissolving into the shadows. "Find the key," he whispered, "and set me free." With those final words, he vanished, leaving you alone in the dark, empty house. The journal clutched tightly in your hands. You knew that your journey was far from over. The answers lay within those pages, and the truth of your friend's death was waiting to be uncovered. To find out what happens next, hit that like button, comment your theories and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The mystery deepens and the answers lie just beyond the veil. Will you dare to uncover the truth? Join us on this journey into the unknown, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and every shadow holds a secret. Turn on notifications if you dare. The next chapter awaits and the story is far from over. Stay tuned for more if you have the courage to continue. I felt a cold breeze brush past me as he led me deeper into the house. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and the air was thick with an unexplainable presence. "What do you need?" I asked, my voice trembling. "There's something I left behind," he replied. "Something that must be destroyed." His voice was urgent, filled with an urgency that sent chills down my spine. We navigated through the narrow hallway, each step echoing in the oppressive silence. The symbols on the walls seemed to pulse and writhe, as if they were alive and watching us. He stopped in front of a heavy wooden door that looked older than the house itself. "Beyond this door lies the relic," he whispered. "It is the source of my torment, and it must be destroyed to break the curse." I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door handle. "What is this relic?" I asked, my curiosity battling with my fear. "It is an artifact of great power," he replied, his voice barely audible. "It was used to bind me to this world, to trap my soul in eternal suffering." With a deep breath, I pushed the door open. The room beyond was dark, the only light coming from a single flickering candle in the centre. There, on a pedestal, was a small, intricately carved box. The air around it seemed to hum with energy, and I could feel its malevolent presence. "Destroy it!" he urged, his voice filled with desperation. "It is the key to my freedom." I stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached out to touch the box, I felt a surge of power, a wave of darkness that threatened to consume me, but I knew I had to be strong, for my friend's sake. With all my strength, I lifted the box and hurled it to the ground. It shattered into pieces, and a blinding light filled the room. The symbols on the walls glowed brightly, then faded into nothingness. The oppressive presence lifted, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice filled with relief. "You have set me free." I turned to look at him, but he was already fading, his form dissolving into the light. "Goodbye, my friend," I said softly, tears streaming down my face. As the light faded, I found myself alone in the dark room, the shattered remains of the box at my feet. The house was silent, the oppressive presence gone. I knew that my friend's spirit was finally at peace. To find out what happens next, hit that like button, comment your theories and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The mystery deepens and the answers lie just beyond the veil. Will you dare to uncover the truth? Join us on this journey into the unknown, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and every shadow holds a secret. Turn on notifications if you dare. The next chapter awaits, and the story is far from over. Stay tuned for more if you have the courage to continue. He pointed to an old, dusty book on a table. "This book holds the secrets of the dead," he explained. "It must be burned, or else—" His voice trailed off, and the room grew colder. I picked up the book, feeling its weight and the dark energy it emitted. "How do I destroy it?" I asked. His eyes were filled with a haunted look. "The book is bound by powerful magic. It can only be destroyed in the flames of a sacred fire," he said, his voice trembling. "There is an ancient fireplace in the basement. It is the only place strong enough to break the curse." I nodded, gripping the book tightly. We made our way to the basement, the air growing colder with each step. The stairs creaked under our weight, and the shadows seemed to close in around us. Finally, we reached the bottom, where an old stone fireplace stood. It looked ancient, covered in soot and cobwebs. "Light the fire," he urged. "Use the matches on the mantel. They were blessed by a priest long ago." I found the matches and struck one, the small flame flickering in the darkness. I lit the kindling in the fireplace, and soon a roaring fire blazed before us. The heat was intense, and the flames seemed to dance with a life of their own. "Now," he said, his voice filled with urgency, "throw the book into the fire." I hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the book in my hands. The dark energy pulsed through me, but I knew what I had to do. With all my strength I hurled the book into the flames. It caught fire immediately, the pages curling and blackening as the dark energy was consumed. A deafening roar filled the room, and a blinding light erupted from the fireplace. The ground shook, and I felt a wave of energy wash over me. The oppressive presence that had filled the house lifted, and I could feel a sense of peace. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice filled with relief. "You have freed me from my torment." I turned to look at him, but he was already fading, his form dissolving into the light. "Goodbye," I said softly, tears streaming down my face. As the light faded, I found myself alone in the basement, the ashes of the book in the fireplace. The house was silent, the heavy presence gone. I knew that my friend's spirit was finally at peace. To find out what happens next, hit that like button, comment your theories, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The mystery deepens, and the answers lie just beyond the veil. Will you dare to uncover the truth? Join us on this journey into the unknown, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and every shadow holds a secret. Turn on notifications if you dare. The next chapter awaits, and the story is far from over. Stay tuned for more if you have the courage to continue. Before he could answer, the lights flickered and the house began to shake. "Hurry!" he urged. "There's not much time." I ran to the fireplace, throwing the book into the flames. As it burned, I heard screams and whispers, as if the souls trapped within were being released. The shaking stopped, and the house fell silent. But just as I thought it was over, a hidden door in the basement wall creaked open. My heart pounded as I approached it, the darkness beyond seeming to pull me in. I stepped through the doorway, finding myself in a secret chamber filled with ancient artifacts and symbols glowing faintly in the dim light. At the centre of the room stood a pedestal, and on it an ornate box covered in intricate carvings. My curiosity overwhelmed my fear, and I slowly opened the box. Inside was a letter, written in a language I couldn't understand. Suddenly the room grew colder, and I felt a presence behind me. I turned to see the spirit of my friend, now more solid and serene. "This is the final piece of the puzzle," he said, his voice calm. "The letter reveals the true nature of the curse and how it can be undone completely. You must find someone who can translate it and continue the quest." I nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. "I will," I promised. "I won't let your sacrifice be in vain." As the spirit began to fade, he smiled. "Thank you," he whispered. "You have given me hope." With the letter in hand, I left the basement knowing that my journey was far from over. The house may have been cleansed of its dark presence, but the true battle had just begun. What secrets would the letter reveal, and what new dangers awaited? To find out, stay with us. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The mystery deepens, and the answers lie just beyond the veil. Will you dare to uncover the truth? Join us on this journey into the unknown, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and every shadow holds a secret. Turn on notifications if you dare. The next chapter awaits, and the story is far from over. Stay tuned for more if you have the courage to continue. I turned to my friend, but he was gone. In his place was a sense of peace, as if he'd finally found rest. I left the house, the weight of the experience heavy on my mind. As I drove away, I couldn't help but wonder, was it really over? Or would the calls start again? Days turned into weeks, and life seemed to return to normal. But one night, as I sat alone in my study, the phone rang. My heart raced as I picked it up, the fear of hearing that familiar voice gripping me. I answered, but there was only silence on the other end. I hung up, trying to shake off the unease. But the calls continued, each one a chilling reminder of the ordeal I had endured. Was it a residual energy, a final echo of the curse? Or was there something more sinister still at play? Determined to find answers, I returned to the house. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, and the hidden door in the basement stood open as if waiting for me. I stepped inside, the letter clutched tightly in my hand. In the weeks since my last visit, I had found a scholar who could translate the ancient script. The letter spoke of a ritual, a final act that would sever the ties between the living and the dead. But it required a personal sacrifice, a piece of my own soul. I stood at the pedestal, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Could I go through with it? Would it truly end the curse, or was it just another trap? As I contemplated my next move, the room grew colder, and I felt a familiar presence. My friend appeared once more, his form more solid than ever. "You have the power to end this," he said, his voice a whisper. "But it will come at a cost." I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening. "I'm ready," I replied, "for you, and for all the others trapped by this curse." With a final glance at my friend, I began the ritual. The air crackled with energy, and the room was filled with a blinding light. When it faded, the house was silent, and I knew the curse was broken. Exhausted but relieved, I left the house for the last time. The calls never came again, and my friend was finally at peace. But the experience had changed me forever. What secrets had I uncovered, and what new mysteries awaited? To find out, stay with us. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. The journey into the unknown continues, and the answers lie just beyond the veil. Will you dare to uncover the truth? Join us if you have the courage to continue. Turn on notifications and stay tuned for more, because the story is far from over. Just as I thought it was all behind me, the phone rang once more.